Hello and welcome to another B2B R&D Blab. It's all about digital marketing and it's every Friday at noon Eastern. I'm Ellen Williams, CEO and co-founder of B2B R&D, always joined here by
Craig Yaris, the COO and co-founder of B2B R&D, home of research.
Home of research. Yes, we are a search engine. We have a proprietary database full of content all about digital marketing, and a monthly subscription gets you access first month free. And I'm going to jump right into today's topic and probably have the opportunity to show a little bit about our product about halfway through the blab. So today we're talking about online advertising. And what a minefield it's become. Besides having to strategize and figure out what advertising creative you have and who your audience is and where to put it, there's a bunch of people out there trying to get in your way and take your money and give you nothing in return. So with the research that we've done recently, Craig, we found one this week that really upset me. And we don't even do a lot of advertising.
No.
But apparently there's an AdWords ad that's attempting to steal users from AdWords account and their usernames and passwords. And do you have more information on that one?
And I've actually, since we found that article, and what it is basically is an AdWords ad. So somebody is running an AdWords ad, and it's showing up at the top of the AdWords ads using the phrase AdWords throughout the ad. Basically, that's the only text, and it leads to a phishing website. So people are made to think that it's an ad about set up AdWords, so made to think it's a Google ad. And it ends up leading to another website, a phishing website, looking for your Google login information. And I haven't been able to replicate it. I have been trying through Google to get that ad to show up. I'm going to try it again right now.
Well, since we've reported on it and they found it, maybe it's...
it's possible it's not showing up again.
So it's an ad that promises to help with AdWords. It's an AdWord ad.
Yes. And it's sort of interesting in my mind because Google is supposed to vet every ad. I mean, I've had ads rejected from Google before. Just like I have from Facebook for whatever reason, images, text, doesn't matter. So they're supposed to vet every single ad. And here you've got one using their terminology right at the top of AdWords. And so it really, it begs the question, how good is their review process that somebody can just sneak one in and get one over on them? I thought they were reviewed by humans.
Or the opposite, how good is is this one company? Have they done it legitimately and found the way to get through those barriers? I mean, let's really think about how many AdWord ads are out there. I mean, that number must be staggering.
I completely agree. I'm actually seeing if I could pull up an image from that we had.
Okay.
So bear with me. And you're right. They've got a staggering
number of ads happening at any given time.
Yeah.
And they come up and down and people change them all the time. I mean, I don't know, do they really marry the text with the URL? And, maybe that URL was at one point doing what they said they were doing. I mean, that would be the perfect phishing, right? I was doing what I said I'm doing now, but I'm not doing it anymore. I'm just a scam now. right? Like get everybody to buy in because you do it, and then pretend like you're still doing it. So who knows? But heads up that there's an ad out there, advertising assistance with AdWords, just looking to scoop
And actually,
your login.
If you were to make me a host, I think I can share these two images just so we can see them. And I don't know if they show up in the replay. I think if I screen share, they will. So I'm going to try that.
It's not letting me.
Of course not.
Do a host.
All right.
No, that's not working today.
All right, I'm going to throw these two.
Got it.
Oh.
So as you look for that, I'm going to. Oh.
What'd I do?
I don't know.
Oh, I was going to screen share, but
go for it. Tried.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how best to go about it.
Okay. So some other things that are going on in the world of advertising, of course, is the ad blocking and how people are getting around that.
All right, I've got it if you want to.
Okay, great.
I think. Okay, so here is what the ad looks like.
Okay.
Is that working?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, okay, because I actually don't see it correctly. But you can see here, I've got my mouse. This top ad here has the AdWords, start advertising today, be found in more online searches, showing up above Google.
They must have paid more.
And here is, let's see, I'm going to throw a different link in to show you where it goes. All right.
So that is a scam.
Yes, and here you'll see it goes to this website, Free OS, and it looks just like the Google sign-on page.
And so there's an anticipation that people are actually signing on.
Exactly. And, you and I and our audience may, be savvy enough to notice that it says Free OS here or Free OS. But, the majority of people may not notice that because this says Google right here. And it looks very much like a Google page. It's even got the one data account for everything data, although that's not what Google says.
But do you actually notice that when you log in?
Right. So
they're doing a good job, for the lack of a better word, right? They're executing well on their scam.
They really are, and to me, it's very scary.
Well, any good scam is, right? Any good scam is scary, and unfortunately, scams work, and that's why we keep seeing them.
Yeah.
But this one has definitely come to the forefront. People have understood that it's a scam. But yeah, you need, so it's two sides of the coin, right? So that's an advertisement that's a scam. And it's a direct scam to try to reach out to other advertisers, people who are using AdWords.
Right.
But there are other things causing issues with online advertising. So I started talking about ad blocking, but I want to skip to ad fraud.
Okay, yeah.
Where, you, Mr. Advertiser, are totally legitimate. Now we're talking legitimate advertising sort of being hijacked.
Yep.
Right? By something going on behind the scenes of the ad where I'm the legitimate advertiser paying for the ad, paying for the click, and then having that person who clicked wind up somewhere other than my website.
Yes. And what people have now, become savvy at doing, and, I don't understand or know the technical parts of it, but they're basically using code between the server that serves the ad to your website so that when, the ad shows up normally, but if you click the ad, it goes somewhere else. So the advertiser, us, and everyone else who's just an unsuspecting victim pays for that click, but never gets the benefit. There are some that will actually, when you click the ad, it'll go to the actual website it's supposed to for a split second, and then jump off
And
to
redirect.
to the other website. So it's,
So does that enable the legitimate website to see the traffic?
yes.
And because the next thing I was going to say is how do we combat that? Because as the advertiser, now we're doing nothing wrong,
Right.
and it becomes the responsibility of the publisher or the platform that we're advertising on, and they need to be, aware of what's going on there.
They need to be aware of it, but even they can't do anything because it's happening somewhere between the ad server and the website. So even the legitimate website where the ad is showing up, they may not have anything to do with it. And may not be able to stop it. It's somewhere between, it's sort of on the ad server. So those that are serving the ads are taking steps to solve that problem. And, I said it may show up in traffic, and I was mistaken. We had an article, I think it was this week or last, that indicated Google can't actually track those quick one-offs.
Okay.
So
that's what I was going to say. When you start looking at the bill for the advertising pay-per-click, the only way to reconcile that really is to see what's going on with the traffic to your website.
Right.
And to at least have some way to reconcile. It may not be a perfect match.
That's true.
But it should be pretty close.
Yes, it will be. And that is information that's worth going back to, the advertiser with. And I know Google, for instance, they actually reconcile on their own quite frequently. So you could get charged for clicks at first, but within a few weeks, you'll get money back for clicks that were inadvertent, for clicks that didn't spend time on your website. So Google does a good job of that themselves.
Okay, but that's AdWords.
Yes.
What if my ad is somewhere else?
Yeah, there's
a non-Google ad.
Totally different setup. If it's being served up by one of the DMPs, the programmatic engines, it's totally outside of Google, and I don't think they're doing. I don't want to say they're not doing anything, but I don't think they're doing a good enough job of policing those fraudulent clicks. And I think we may be talking about numbers that are maybe so high that it doesn't matter. The advertisers are getting so many clicks that may result in actual ROI that they don't care about the fraudulent.
Okay.
I don't know.
So if you're talking big budgets, and huge brands where they're spread out to a variety of different publishers and platforms, where if 5% are fraudulent, they're not going to worry about the dollar per click or the 50 cents per click or whatever they're bidding. So that reconciliation has a much less of an impact, so they're not going to bother to do it. But the smaller advertiser needs to be aware that the fraud code doesn't discriminate. They don't really care who the advertiser is, right? They're just looking for the traffic. So they're piggybacking on someone else's dime to get traffic. Now, the question, it begs the question, if I click on an ad and I wind up at a website that is irrelevant, I leave. So where's the benefit to the person developing the code for the ad fraud? They're not getting paid money for the click. The platform's getting that. And if they're directing traffic randomly depending on the ad,
it's not random traffic. That's just it. The traffic is made to go to a specific site that very well may be similar to the ads that it's being served up. So therefore, it's getting the money that would have gone to, the legitimate website, possibly. So
I'm not necessarily. So I could be a legitimate business doing this, and
no, you're not.
So that's what my question is. If I'm redirecting traffic from an ad,
you use the term legitimate business. In my mind, a legitimate business is somebody who doesn't engage in click fraud. They are a business that sells products, but they are engaging in this click fraud system, this systematic.
To piggyback on the advertising their competitors are doing.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they're sophisticated.
So the click fraud code is intelligent because it's choosing the appropriate ad.
Could be. Like I said, the technical aspects of it they're not something I've completely grasped yet.
Okay. Okay.
I'm still trying to understand exactly, the coding aspect of it. It's something I always wish I could do. Not, fraudulently. Let's be clear. I don't mean fraudulently, but it's something that I had always, so it would give me a better understanding of the actual systematic fraud that's going on.
So, so click fraud is costing the original company putting the ad, because paying for the ad, but they're not getting the traffic.
Yes.
And potentially the traffic is going to either a competitor that could sell the similar or same product that's being advertised, or I suspect the traffic could be redirected to a site that just is looking for high traffic numbers for their own advertising.
Yes, absolutely. And I'd say it's more apt to be the latter. It's more apt to be another advertised website that is looking to build numbers. Yes. And therefore,
fraud.
Right. If you can't be trusted, you can't be trusted. And unfortunately, I think for the legitimate advertisers and the legitimate websites, there's really today no way to completely stop this. Just like there's no way to completely stop people from skimming credit card numbers and from, stealing other login data. I think the programmatic engines need to get better at something that Google does up until the fraudulent ad we showed you. To actually see and look at the code being used on the websites that they're selling, the code that they're in essence selling to use. I think they need
how
to
often do they check that though? I suspect, not being in the ad fraud industry or the advertising industry, right? So I'm not creating it, nor am I defending against it. Right. However, if I were, I would look for ads that were legitimate, and then jump in maybe after the fact. So everything looks clean and good, right? So if I'm committing fraud, I'm going to wander around. I'm not going to hang out in the same place.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is why it's a problem and why people are getting away with it.
Absolutely. And it's why I think some of these programmatic marketplaces are looking to artificial intelligence to help them combat this. So they're looking to sophisticated AI engines that can actually scan code and look at ads, much more efficiently, obviously, than a human could.
And repetitively.
So it can be a constant scan of the database. And I don't think they're there yet.
So do you think that the publishers who get there will be able to increase the price of advertising with them because they can
guarantee?
Well, I was going to say promise, but code is code, right? Nothing's 100%.
But there are several marketplaces today offering 100% viewability guarantees. Now, most of them, if I'm not mistaken, they're TV cross-device related. So it's a different type of ad that we're talking about here.
Okay.
And they are offering a 100% viewability guarantee. But all that's meaning is that if they can't guarantee it, they'll give you your money back.
But that's viewability.
Right.
That doesn't mean
viewability. Absolutely right.
I can promise that people will see your ad or watch your video. The video will play.
Right.
right? The ad itself will play. I can guarantee viewability, but I can't guarantee that,
Nope.
you know, after I've checked it today and I've checked it tomorrow, the third day, that, you know, fraudulent code doesn't show up.
Nope. You can't
Now,
guarantee
for
any of it.
especially if I'm a well-known publisher that has that kind of reputation, viewability, and you
Sure.
know, I'm out there promoting how wonderful it is to advertise with me. You know, the ad fraud guys are definitely jumping on that bandwagon, right? Oh, great! You know, they think they're the best thing out there since sliced bread. To date
Right.
myself on that one, you know,
But here's
if I
the other problem you have with these things, and even these guarantees, is the use of numbers, the use of statistics. Nobody is looking at people saying, okay, that person viewed the video. Snapchat, you know, is touting right now, I believe, 8 billion videos viewed per day. But they're not parsing people who've viewed it more than once. They're not parsing, they've actually watched it through. The minute it starts playing, it's a video view. So, you know, I have a Snapchat account that I don't use that often, but I'll watch some people's videos and click, you know, very quickly go through them. So I'm not really watching them. But that's part of the 8 billion, did I say? 8 billion. So these networks and these advertisers need to get on board with a definition of all of these things. What is viewability? What is, you know, the click-through? Is it an actual, if I click on the ad and it gets redirected, is that a click-through? That's a real problem that they haven't solved yet. And I think until they do, there's always going to be that sort of air of questionability on these things.
Yeah. So as we continue the conversation, one of the sources that we use often is our own source of information, and it's our research search engine for digital marketing. Craig and I have been longtime digital marketing experts. We curate and write summary content that gets dropped into our proprietary database, and it becomes the research database and the research search engine at a monthly subscription fee. First month free. You can tap into all the information that's happening in the world of digital marketing through our search engine. And as we discuss these topics on Blab, I know I have research open, and you can see here, this is my login and the category of advertising on the right-hand side here, and the keyword of viewability over on the left gave me 24 results within our own database. So it's easy to scroll through. It's easy to have this on my screen, whether I'm in the middle of a blab communicating something about digital marketing, or I'm on the phone with a client communicating something about digital marketing, and enables you to find what you're looking for quickly and easily. And I have to say, it really has on these blabs been great to be able to quickly pull things up. Especially since I know it's something we've read recently, or we've already done the research that gives us sort of the topics for these weekly blabs. So we encourage people to take a look at B2B R&D, first month free, the research search engine for digital marketers. So moving on to other issues with online advertising. So we've talked about some wonkiness going on with an AdWord ad. We've moved on to ad fraud, which, you know, is really a bit of an issue. Although I know ad fraud and even ad blocking, there's sort of two sides of the conversation there, that yes, it's out there, and yes, it's costing money, but it's a very small percentage of the overall advertising market. Ad fraud being something the advertiser has very little they can do about it, and really is on the onus of the publisher. Where ad blocking is actually a little similar, because again, as an advertiser, there's not much I can do about ad blocking either. It all really comes down to, the publisher and where that advertisement is being promoted and shown. So ad blocking, a couple ways around ad blocking, or at least a couple attempts to get around ad blocking. And the first is that the publishers are saying, okay, well, either turn off your ad blocker or you don't get to read the good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you think of that approach?
I actually am not a fan of that approach. And the main reason is you've taken my choice away. You've taken my decisions away from me. I want ad blockers. And now I don't use an ad blocker myself. But I will say that my son does. He took it upon himself to install an ad blocker. So I think that's very interesting. At 13, I've never mentioned it to him, but he's installed it. So I think by having that there, it takes away my choice. I don't want to see ads. I want to see your content. I think the better way around it really is twofold for publishers. One, and advertisers and marketers, better ads. Really, better ads, better quality content will make it so we don't mind seeing them. I think second, stop overloading your sites with ads. When I go to sites like, I'm trying to think of one that's a real culprit for this. I can't offhand, but you've got ads on the side. You've got ads between each piece of content. You've got ads at the top. You've got a pop-up ad when you get there. If you stop doing that, we won't use ad blockers. If you've got a nice ad that looks good and is not intrusive, I think people are willing to understand that, look, that's how you're paying you keep the lights on by those ads. So I think the industry, if there's the advertising industry is to blame for the ad blocker proliferation that's going on.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to ask you, is it the advertisers or is it the publishers that overpopulate their sites with ads?
It's both. It's the advertisers because their content is crappy. Can I say that on the air? Do we have an FCC thing? I don't know. You listen to the radio and they're always like, can I say that on the air? So you have the ads that are just terrible and that are not targeted well and that are, selling me, women's stuff. Last time I checked, not a woman. So I think they're to blame for their inability to really create and target ads. And I think the publishers are to blame for thinking the more the better.
So how do you target an ad if they don't know who you are visiting the website?
Well, there are certainly ways to figure that out. There is that data available. How did I get to it? Where did I see your information? The use of cookies can certainly help that in, better targeting. Retargeting is not new. So how does Google know? And I'm using Google as an example because most people do retargeting through Google AdWords. How do they know who I am and where I am? They have the data behind it. So the ads showing up within the publisher websites should be using all of that data that these programmatic companies have available to them. And I don't think they do.
Yep.
So,
I don't think so either.
all of this data is out there. And that's why actually Facebook ads tend to be a little bit better, not necessarily quality-wise, but targeting-wise. Because Facebook is able to give that data and make it easy to parse for marketers. The copy is still a problem. I saw this morning, I think it was this morning, a Geico ad on the right side of my Facebook feed with a sloth there, and it just said, get Geico or something. And to me, I don't know who ran the ad. I don't know if it's Geico or a local Geico agent. But content-wise, how is that getting me to take action? It's not. That is a blanket targeted ad to everybody within let's say I live near West Palm Beach, so that seems to be a demographic that I fit into. It's baffling to me that people can't look at their ads and their creative when they're making it and say, okay, look, I need to reach this specific buyer persona. And we've talked about that. The way these companies are not really spending the time on figuring out who their market is.
Right. So, and, certainly one issue is that some brands think everyone is their market. And so how do you target market to everyone? So I have a question from an advertising standpoint. Do you think there's the same structure within the plan of an advertising campaign where you could have some of those more broad, less targeted ads and then slightly filtered down to more targeted ads the more you learn about who's clicking through, similar to, say, an email marketing campaign where you capture their information with maybe a more broad message, but enables the tool enables you to eventually segment based on additional information that will allow your campaign to be more specific. So when you talk about advertising and marketing, and we've both heard it's anywhere between 7 and 12 or 15 touch points, right? If it's the first one, like you said, that's, you said Geico, that's enough. Maybe the next one is more targeted. Maybe the next one is more targeted. And all of a sudden, you've seen the word Geico, and then one of them really hits the right chord with you. And they've already sort of had that presence that the 5th or 8th touch point is the one where it's really targeted.
You absolutely, not only can you, but should you do things like that? If you take and I'm going to talk Facebook because they have such specific information available to you. So if you run, and I had done this a while ago, this is an old campaign. It was sort of, it's actually very old. It was for my old company, and it was meant to get page likes. So that's how old this is. But Facebook breaks down, so it's a generic ad. Page likes. It really is. But they then break down by gender, age, and where the ad occurred. So you could then begin to target, okay, I see, the majority of people that clicked through this ad were this gender and this age group in this demographic area. Well, now I can create something for those people because that's now the target. So the data's there. The problem is people aren't using it. We're just not. Google AdWords gives you data that you can use to better segment your ads. People aren't using the data. They're not uploading it to the programmatic engines. They're not providing them with the data they should, because who knows their customer base better? Why take Facebook? I know how you feel about Facebook, but they do have a lot of data on us.
Oh, of course.
As a business, I can upload my email list.
Right.
It's now going to match people with their email addresses. So I can now create audiences, what they call lookalike audiences.
Right.
And that should be a really solid targeting practice. My question would be, how many people are doing it? So
would you then say, going through the process of advertising on Facebook and truly going through it, not just throwing $50 and see if this ad works, right? You put some money, it doesn't have to be a lot, but you put some money, you run a few different campaigns, you really analyze it. Do you think that you could sort of do a Facebook ad as a learning experience and then take the information you've gathered there and translate that into Google AdWords, because now you have a better idea of your target market?
You most certainly could. There is no question. If you run a campaign, even if you go the other way, go from AdWords to Facebook, because again, you can parse the data. You can take your email list and upload it to Google's AdWords platform and create lookalike audiences. You can do it on Twitter, I believe now. And I believe we can do it on LinkedIn. So the ability to really reach your exact audience is right there. Just people aren't willing to make the effort to take it. And that's where we get these garbage ads that are targeted to no one or everyone. I always, and I've said this myself, that, who's your market? My market's everyone. No, your market isn't everyone. I would say it, but I'd sit with clients and say, no. And I had once worked with a client who thought his market was, he was sure that his market was specific age group females. And we found out it was he was wrong. So by not looking at, and even taking his email list and uploading it to Facebook and seeing who the audience is, it's a simple step that anybody can do. If you don't do that, you really don't know who you're talking to. It's just, I think, and the reason we're talking about this is ad blockers. And I think if we were to stop giving garbage and utilizing this data, we could create ads that are right speaking to you. And you know what? I think we'd be okay with that. I think ad blocker usage would go down.
Because it would be more relatable. It would be things I'm actually interested in, or at least as close as possible. I mean,
exactly.
I've given the example of retargeting. Last year my son got married, so I was looking for a nice mother of the groom dress, and when I finally purchased one, for quite a while after, I was getting a lot of advertisements for dresses. So it's, it didn't offend me. I mean, it didn't put me off. It wasn't like, oh, look at all these garbage or crappy ads. Mm-hmm. It was more of like, okay, I'm done now. Thank you, internet. Well, I found my dress,
Here's my, I've got my retargeting story right now. My family shares an Amazon Prime account, obviously. And my son is 15. He does a lot of Lego searches. Do you know how often I'm retargeted on Facebook for Lego purchases? They are completely missing the mark.
Are they?
They are, because I'm not buying it.
Anymore?
No, I don't. Honestly, if it's put in the cart and we say, yes, he does I don't do it. Where, it's just stuff he's putting in the cart maybe to save.
Okay, but they don't know that because it's multiple people with one account. So if you are affiliated with that account, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because they're actually hitting the nail on the head.
Well, they're hitting the nail just the wrong head, because I ain't buying it. But I'm not doing it. He's got to ask his grandmother or something.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're going to build your house out of Lego soon, huh?
Oh, I actually think I could.
Not a bad thing.
No question.
Okay, so we've got the things that cause issues. You've got the phishing, the ad blockers, and the ad fraud. So these are really sort of the minefield that has become online advertising. And as much as advertisers try to do their best to avoid and get around that, it really comes down to, certainly from an ad blocking standpoint, we could, as a public, start to pull back from using them if those ads were more relatable, were more in tune with me as a person. And I think you're right, but you talked about LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Google, all of them with substantial amounts of data about who's either on their platform, or in Google's case, they can, everyone's using Google, or just about everyone's using Google. They travel, right? So they travel, and they've got that data. But now you start talking about, okay, I'm going to go to a website that looks and feels like that's where my audience is hanging out, and I'm bypassing all those other platforms. How how do I make the most of that as an advertiser? And what are some things I might look for as an advertiser in the conversation with those publishers to make sure that it really is a right fit and I'm getting to the right demographic? Because I won't have information about who's going there unless they deliver that to me.
Well, and that would really be the conversation, I think. It sort of harkens back to the days of the newspaper and printed ads. If I'm a publishing website, and I want advertisers, I may not be going direct with the advertiser any longer. It may no longer be that, I'm going to call it the door-to-door sort of way to do it, like we did, like it was done back in, when we only had newspapers. And you talked strictly circulation numbers. Google Analytics, you mentioned Google knowing a lot about us. If you set up your Google Analytics properly, connected to what used to be called Google Webmaster Tools, they're now changing that to Google Search Console. And if all of those tools are set up properly, you pretty much know who's visiting your website. I may not know that it's you, Ellen, but I know that it's somebody where you are, and based upon your IP address, I could probably parse who you are. So the advertisers are really going to these third parties that are aggregating these websites and serving up the ads properly, the programmatic method of doing it. It's no longer the, in fact, a good example of that is the fact that people don't contact us anymore to say, hey, can I put an ad on your website? It used to be all the time. We don't have to do that anymore. Google, if you allow Google, just to use them as an example, to serve ads on your website, they're going to serve the relevant ads to your audience.
Right. Do you think the websites that are overpopulated with ads are using Google?
I do sometimes. And you'll see that. In fact, one of the ones I'm thinking about, the ads it actually says, something along the lines of Google on there.
But a lot of them
ads
don't. I mean, there's even content websites, and I mean content websites, like real publishers, like magazine, newspaper publishers, right? Where you're halfway through the article and something comes in from the side. It's like, okay. Thank you. I'm reading now. It's and that's not Google. That's
that's the publisher.
Right. Or you get there and it's like this, and you're like, no, and you have to get rid of this before you can get.
I'm actually gonna call it the Huffington Post on that one, because they do that when you link through to them from Facebook. They put up a full page ad right there that you have to click past, and that's strictly. They've instituted the system for doing that, the pop over, I think it's called.
Right.
But how that ad is served.
Yeah. But
it's served by a third party, the ad. So it's the third party platform will give, this is very basic, will give Huffington Post the code, or even us the code if we're a member of it. And it basically, when the pop-up comes in.
It's not Huffington Post. It's even if it's not Google, it's some other.
It's some other platform. But they don't
have an ad network, right? Where people do it.
The DoubleClick ad network. Although Facebook is dismantling LiveRail was an ad network. So it's basically code that it's a link that'll call out to that network to pull an ad in. But it's Huffington Post or that publisher that has taken the time to create the backdrop for it.
I see.
So it's sort of
placing that code.
Right, exactly. If we were to decide to do that within the B2B website, we could certainly join DoubleClick or any one of these platforms and do that. It doesn't serve our audience, but it's certainly money in your pocket. That's what publishers look at. I'm giving you free content. It's a way for me to make money.
But only if...
Not necessarily, no. You're thinking only if they click. No. Think of the two different, go to Facebook and run an ad. You have a choice. You can pay per impression or per click.
So on that note, which is the more advantageous?
I've never been a fan of paper impression.
Me neither.
And the reason is exactly what we're talking about. The ad shows up, I click the X. I've paid for the impression, but it was useless. The click shows assuming there's no fraud, assuming there's none of that. The click shows an overt action by the viewer that it hit the mark, and one may result in a sale, or two, a relationship.
Or three,
So
at least the demographics, the
yes.
analytics, that it got that action.
It hit the mark.
It hit some mark or some element of the mark. You know, it got enough of an engagement to cause an action.
Yes. I've been involved, in digital marketing since about 2009, and I have run one paper impression campaign in all those years. One. Now, I stopped doing it in 2015 when we started this, but one paper impression campaign. And it fit the goal. The goal was strictly it was on Facebook, and it was strictly to get the company's name in front of more people in their surrounding area.
Okay. So
the owner of the business was like, I don't want them clicking. I have nothing to give them. I don't want to give them. I just want them to see. And so that's what it was. And it was actually very successful for very little money. And
because most people are going to bid on the click versus the impression.
Right.
Most.
Right.
Do you believe that to be true, that most advertising money is made with the click versus the impression?
I think so. Yes, I do. But
I liked it. I liked that it was related to the goal. Obviously we're not talking about that today. But making the right choice is, both with what you're trying to achieve and who you're trying to reach.
Absolutely. And that's why that ad format fit perfectly. It was within the strategy we were running, and it fit the goals we needed. And according to his sales numbers, it worked, because during the time of the campaign and for about 2 months after, his business had increased. So he was happy. We met the goals.
Very cool.
But that being said, I do think that an impression-based ad could be useful.
I think, but it stems back to the goals, and you've proven that it can be useful.
Yeah. But like I said, that's the only time I've done it, and so I can't say today if it's a more or less useful with any statistics, any personal statistics.
I think certainly with the research we've done, which is not specific to the numbers on pay-per-click versus pay for impression, I would suspect that as long as the target was well done, that the impression would be a viable way to go for an advertisement.
But I think you need to be very specific in your targeting for that matter.
Yeah.
I would always start with a pay-per-click ad. I do think you get more value for the dollar for a smaller business. And for a larger business, it is easier to equate clicks to dollars. So you can actually, I've paid for the click, now we're using Google Analytics or whatever platform you choose, I can actually see how that flows through and actually makes money.
Sure.
The impression is much harder to do that with, because I'll see the ad today, but I may not visit your website for 5 days, and you may not know. I could see the ad on my iPhone, but visit your website from my desktop days later, so you can't really attribute that visit to that ad. You can with a click, a pay-per-click.
Right, because you're getting the data, you're getting that information, of course. I mean, you can attribute it, potentially in other ways if the impression had some sort of code or some sort of instructions, or there was just, a a time-sensitive correlation between how long the ad ran and
Sure.
a potential boost in whatever it is you're advertising, whether it's traffic or sales.
But those are guesses at that point, I think. So you're just sort of hoping that that's what happened. And I found, although again, larger companies will do this well, small and mid-sized companies aren't necessarily connecting their ads with their analytics and website traffic and sales. So they're not even setting up, let's say, conversion goals. So they won't know specifically how many conversions there were. It's a real problem, I think.
And I think you've touched on another point, certainly, and that is conversion. And the conversion is a huge conversation with all things digital, from social media to content marketing to marketing in general to advertising to sales, right? What attribution, right? But also everything is really, almost anything a business does should be geared toward, growing that bottom line, bringing in new customers, or, bringing in repeat customers.
Right.
So the question I had that escapes me, because I went too far back in that backstory there.
Well, good, because I'm going to jump in while you're trying to remember your question, because you mentioned attribution, and I think something that people also need to take note of in their strategy is, how are we attributing? Is it first click? Is it last click? So that's also an important part of your strategy and your conversion.
Right.
Am I attributing the first click to the website to the ad, or the purchase? It needs to be something that's thought through and thought out before those ads are even run, I think.
Right. And I remembered now. So you can have a great ad campaign and you can get impressions, clicks, you can get a lot of attention, a lot of traffic, but the conversion is happening outside of the ad itself.
Yes.
The conversion happens wherever you've brought that person. So a great ad campaign that drives traffic but doesn't drive conversion is not necessarily the fault of the ad campaign. It's the fault of the landing page, which actually could be part of the ad campaign, or the way in which the items were presented, or however many clicks it takes to get through the cart, or
Yep.
there are a lot of other things that can contribute to lack of conversion.
Absolutely. And I think one of the, in my mind, and from data that I had seen previously through my own experience, the lack of cohesion between campaign and result was because of mispromise. I don't know if that's a word. They promised something in an ad and it so was not delivered. It was, buy these pants, but here's the home page. So now find those pants. Those kinds of problems, I think, are still an issue today, regardless of how often you hear, make it easy. Like you said, if the ad promises a pair of pants at $12.99 and I click it and I go to a website, those pants should already be in my cart because I clicked the ad.
Right, it could bring you to a cart that already has the item there, and you can check out as guest or check out or
Yes.
continue shopping.
Yep. And in fact, when for B2B, if you were to visit the b2b.com/need to know, and you click on the subscribe or purchase or whatever button, doesn't matter. It brings you right to the cart, not another page. It's going to the cart, ready to go. You don't want to check out yet. You want to keep shopping, go right ahead. But it makes it simple and easy. And I think web designers, websites, companies forget that. I saw this little cartoon on Facebook. Yes, I like Facebook lately. I don't know why. And it said, Google's homepage is just basically the Google logo.
Right.
And there was another example of a very clean homepage. And then it showed, your website's homepage, and it's got ads, and it's got search bars, and it's got things going on and moving and talking. It's overwhelming for people. Simple, easy. I think the days of the website image, now I want to make sure we don't have an image carousel on our homepage right now. I don't think we do.
You don't?
Because I think the days of those things are gone. Simple, clean, easy. If your ad is for a pair of pants and I click, I want them in my cart. And I think that's something we've lost. And I swear, you keep looking, and I keep thinking there's something over my head the way you do that. I'm like,
All right,
what is it?
So I'm trying to prepare to utilize the screen share. And so my setup here is I have my webcam and my computer in front of me, and I have a screen that's behind my webcam. So I have a light between that screen and my webcam, which lights me up, and I have to try to go around the lamp to see what's going on the screen behind me so I can share it. So on that note, thank you very much.
That was just funny. Because, you're looking at me.
Our screen.
You're looking at me, and I'm like, what is it? Do you see is there an airplane? What?
There you go. So on that note, on the technology that is happening in my office, and the conversation you were just talking about, which was what your home screen looks like and what a clear screen looks like. We definitely put a lot of thought into that when we developed Research, which is the search engine for digital marketers. And you can see, hopefully, and I know the replay of this winds up being a little smaller, the areas that you can search are ready and waiting for you on a screen that's really clear and ready for your search. And to make life even easier, we've created these predetermined searches by category. It's going to give you everything within our database, but it is going to give you the most recent information first. So even if there are a lot of results, you are going to see the latest, greatest trends, news, information, and then can scroll through if you're looking for something that potentially you found a few weeks ago. Because the benefit of utilizing Research is that when you get all those emails in your inbox and you find that great piece of information, 2 weeks later, when you go to find it again, not so easy. Your inbox looks a little different. So you may go out to a search engine to look for that. And again, if you're looking for an article that's 2 weeks old, it may no longer be page 1. And it's also going to be in the midst of other types of content, which could be how-tos and 5 ways and blog posts and maybe even competitor advertising, where you're not going to find that at Research. Because when you want to know something, you search, but when you really need to know something, you research, and that's what we deliver to you. So we're wrapping it up at the top of the hour. Today we talked about online advertising, and we reviewed everything from ad fraud to ad blockers, to the need to be a little more creative and inventive with your advertising, and even making sure that you're targeting it well, both through social media platforms, utilizing Google AdWords, and on independent publishers' websites or other ad networks. So it's really a combination of doing a good job and doing your homework, and then finding reputable publishers and really discussing with them what they're doing regarding the issues of ad blocking and ad fraud to make sure that what you're paying for is traffic that you're actually going to see. So having wrapped all that up, I am going to thank Craig Yaris, who is
the COO and co-founder of B2B R&D
And
home of research.
And I am Ellen Williams, CEO and co-founder of B2B R&D. We certainly hope that you will join us again next week at noon Eastern on Blab, and check out the B2B R&D website and take research for a spin. First 30 days is free. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.